we answer your questions live for one whole 60 minutes.
One
Chris
whole
Hamill
60 minutes,
is
yeah?
Whole
here.
60 minutes.
Hello.
Patrick Van Straten has appeared from the pit of doom just in time to make the show. And today, in Social Corner, we've got the man by himself, the man with no plan. It's Zach Yalab.
Yes, no Adam Templeman, no Pete Dorman, it's just Jelab. I will be asking your questions to the guys, so make sure you stick them down in the comments below. And our first question, guys, comes from Gotham Berg. And he asks, how big of an impact will Benjamin Mendy's injury have on the club and who should replace him? He's also put Danilo, Sane, or maybe even Delph.
Oh, Pato, you have Mendy in your draft team, so
I
you may
do.
as well talk about it.
But I also have Danilo, so always pack an umbrella. That's what I'm saying there. Look, I think it'll probably be Danilo most of the time. I think Delph will be fine in bad games, right? Like, so Delph will be fine against the likes of Crystal Palace.
Would you actually play him there over Danilo?
If I needed to rest Danilo, I don't think he can play every game all season. Bear in mind, of course, that he's
a squad player.
Exactly, and bear in mind that Danilo is also a backup number 6. He's a backup right back, and I'm not sure that you necessarily want to adopt what I like to think of as the Arsene Wenger philosophy of playing all your fit fullbacks at once. That seems to me to be a risky move.
How good was Monreal against, who did you play last night? West Brom. He was
before. He was very good. He was very good. Nacho Monreal, also in my team.
Hamster, Leroy Sane. Would you go for Leroy Sane?
Oh, Leroy Sane. Well, when he plays, the kid has absolutely banged this season, hasn't he?
Except for that one time he played at wing back.
Oh, left winger back against Everton.
Yeah.
Harrowing scenes. Yes, I have him in my fantasy team too. Obviously, he scored and assisted. And not only did he demonstrate end product, he actually was much more productive than his counterpart on the other wing, wasn't he? Raheem Sterling. He saw much more of the ball, had a lot more touches. And he was, I just love the simplicity of his game. He gets to the byline, puts the cross in, he's capable of cutting in as well though. He's fast, he's strong, and he's adjusted to the Premier League extremely quickly.
Great eye for a goal.
And very composed as well.
Yeah.
I'd get him straight in there, mate.
Yeah.
Over Raheem Sterling, who is in a great spate of form, but his goals have been put on a plate for him.
I think Benjamin Mendy's injury is a huge problem for Man City. I actually really do. I think they have nobody that is even close to his level of replacement as a backup. I think Danilo doesn't have the same attacking output. I think Delph isn't. Okay, he can play left wing back if he's forced to, but let's face it, he's miles off City's level where he should be.
Well, I feel like this is when Pep's at his best, when he's
Back
plugging,
against the wall.
backs against the wall, and he's sort of coming up with tactical solutions. He was doing it regularly at Bayern. He barely at any point had that whole squad available at his disposal, did he?
That's a good point.
And he was playing. Who's the youngster that's now at Southampton?
He is
Højbjerg.
Højbjerg was playing. I think he played right back against Borussia Dortmund in a cup final. And he started Philipp Lahm in central midfield as a result of all of his centre midfielders being injured. So I will back Pep to find a solution.
I'd expect to shift towards a 3 at the back possibly. Because I think quite often you've got a guy who maybe isn't going to be great as a fullback, but he might be okay as a wing back.
Haven't they been playing 3 at the back anyway?
They've employed a variety of systems this season, and often they change during games. But for instance, would you want Victor Moses, as good as he was last year, playing as a conventional right back? I'm not sure you would. But as a right wing back, he's fantastic. Same could be true of Fabian Delph. Who knows? I think that, like you say, Pep Guardiola, I'm not sure there's anybody in the world you'd rather have dealing with this problem, apart from maybe somebody like Antonio Conte or Max Allegri.
So there we have it. Mendy, massive miss. Zach Yalab, next question.
Yes, this one comes from Harry Pym, and he asks, who is the dark horse in this season's Champions League, especially with RB Leipzig struggling big time?
Oh, Porto last night absolutely hammered Monaco.
Away from home as well.
Yeah.
I'm yet to watch the highlights, but battle of the selling clubs. How are Porto winning that 3-0 away from home? I mean, are Monaco missing pivotal players, crucial players?
I saw a Boubacar.
And Layoun
scored the first one, and that was pretty
You got 2,
easy.
I think, and
Although there was 2 wonder saves before that. But yeah, maybe Porto then. Do you want to have Porto as our dark horses? We all said RB Leipzig at the start of the season.
I'd probably opt for Napoli. I think they won by a 3-4 goal margin again last night. Insigne is looking in pristine form.
Yeah.
Pristine form? Weird wording from me. Dries Mertens as well. You know, they're flying again, aren't they? And the football that Sarri deploys is an absolute joy to watch. And I think that forward line, and the sort of way the players interchange. You've got with Jorginho at the base, you've got players like Zielinski still to come in. Milic is obviously injured. But yeah, they can do a job on anyone at any given time.
I reckon Tottenham Hotspur.
I was actually going to say Tottenham Hotspur.
Go on, you talk about Spurs then.
No, you go ahead.
Well, Tottenham Hotspur, I watched the Borussia Dortmund game at Wembley, and I thought they were miles ahead of Dortmund. I actually did.
No, they weren't miles ahead of them.
I didn't enjoy Dortmund's game at all. I thought they were way too reliant on Pulisic. If you take Pulisic out of that team, I think they're in big trouble, Dortmund, in the Champions League.
But they didn't play Pulisic for most of the game against Real Madrid, and I thought they were okay. They're not as good as Real Madrid, but they're still pretty good. And you could argue as well that they were.
Tottenham will finish second in that group.
But I think they probably will, because they won that game that Dortmund probably should have got at least a point out of at Wembley. Like, you look at that match and you're like, Dortmund's game plan was forced upon them by the fact that Harry Kane's goal was allowed and Aubameyang's was disallowed. Like, if those go the other way around, suddenly you don't have to be as open at the back. You can sit back.
They were missing key personnel.
I was just really, I was definitely unimpressed by the goalkeeper, Berkey.
Yeah,
in
okay,
that
that's fair
Tottenham
enough.
Hotspur fixture.
Although, I mean, he was beaten again at his front post last night by Ciron, lovely right-footed finish, but he made 7 saves on the night, including one exceptional stop from Sergio Ramos at the very end.
And from Isco as
and
well.
they played Peter Bosz. I mean, it was a joy to watch last night, that Dortmund Real Madrid game. They were deploying 3 at the back, but the centre backs were splitting with Nuri Sahin sitting in, and basically Castro and Piszczek, who had completed the most passes in the final third for Dortmund, were just so far up the pitch. It was a big gamble, and it didn't pay off in the end. But they actually went toe to toe with Real Madrid for large parts of that game. I thought Castro was really impressive. I think he completed around 3 dribbles on the night, as was Danny Carvajal, his opposite number, at right back. That was a great battle, and I thought Peter Bosz's men and his game plan were very brave last night, and I still think they
do you think they'll get out of the group?
They've got a shot up, surely.
I don't even see them beating Tottenham Hotspur at the Westfalen.
I think they definitely could. Whether they do is a different question. For me, the difference between those teams is the ability to change the game plan for opposition. So Pochettino, I think what often gets you through Champions League ties, and this is why Mourinho is so good at it, is that he's really good at adapting his game plan to a particular opponent.
Yeah.
Whereas Peter Bosz, I don't think, has done that quite as well. So last night he left Weigl out, which seemed to say, we're not going to have a lot of the ball, we're not going to try and pass through them. And so then I'd have thought, well, play a counter-attacking system. Don't play Nuri Sahin either, and play Pulisic instead of Götze.
Yeah.
Play a faster front 4, and then you can actually try and rip through them on the counter. And there was one point in the first half where they had a 4-on-1, and they somehow screwed it up because Maxi Philippe's cross wasn't very good. So there's stuff like that. Whereas Pochettino, I think, is really, really good at that sort of thing. The way that Spurs play, the energy they have, and the way they've adjusted their game plan before, they played completely differently against Dortmund to how I've ever seen them play against a pressing team.
But do you think that was because Dele Alli was unavailable?
No, I mean, their style of play was different. Like, normally, the way they react to a pressing side is to press more and harder themselves. That's what they do. And in that game, they didn't. They actually sat off and tried to block passing angles. I don't think it worked terribly well, but they're capable of doing this. Like, we saw it last season when they played a 3 in midfield. They played Christian Eriksen in midfield when they beat Man City 2-0. Yeah. And so I think that Pochettino... I don't know. I think that Pochettino and Spurs could have basically anyone in the Champions League.
Did Son start a left wing back in that game? Or am I imagining things? Against Dortmund?
No, Ben Davis did.
Ben Davis.
But last night, just looking at these teams, Tottenham left, and also had a lot of injuries, but obviously Winks, Sissoko, Son and Dyer as a midfield 4 is weak.
Yeah, but it's against Apoel.
I know it's against Apoel, but... Last season, they were losing to smaller teams in the Champions League. They were underperforming massively in the Champions League. Do you think this is a sign that they've turned it around in Europe?
Yeah, but I don't think any of those sides were quite
as bad, as poor as Apoel.
Yeah, the golfing class wasn't quite as different.
I agree with that.
But yeah, I think that game, Dortmund versus Tottenham at the Westfalen Stadion, is going to be a banger.
I cannot wait. Napoli and Man City as well. That's going to be a screamer.
Yeah. Next question, Zacharias.
This one comes from Gregors, and he says, in transfer windows, should teams focus on improving their first team, or should they focus on building depth behind the first team?
Ooh,
that's a really vague question. I mean, you just got to address the immediate needs of your side, haven't you?
I always think you need to improve the first team. Always improve the first team. Then the worst first team players can become the rotation players.
Yeah, and then they subsequently drop down.
They drop down. There's no point improving backups.
That's not always economically viable though. Like, and sometimes you've got a very good first team, and all you need to do is like beef up your squad. Because, for instance, the issue might not be that your first team isn't good enough; is that you can't keep them fit because they're playing every game. Then you need better reserves.
We briefly touched upon weak link and strong link theory, didn't we?
Yeah.
In Sunday Vibes. I mean, it can get a little bit sort of thick, a little bit deep, but. Basically, there's a couple of professors who reckon, after doing a study of football, that you should spend all your money improving the weakest part of your side rather than adding strength in areas where you're already superior to your opposition. Like PSG, for example, spending 220 million on Neymar, 180 million on Mbappe, when they already have, Cavani, Draxler, whoever.
Not much
So maybe, if you take that into account, then they should have signed a new goalkeeper and maybe another wing back and a centre back. But yes, it's quite hard to address that question when there's no kind of specific example of a team. Maybe give us a team.
Yeah, right, let's get the next one then.
Chewy Wrights has this one, and he says, was selling Alvaro Morata Zinedine Zidane's first and most serious mistake in charge of Real Madrid?
Yes.
It's first and what?
It's first and most serious. I definitely think it was his biggest mistake he's made so far.
Yeah.
I don't understand why he got rid of Morata. There didn't seem like there was a massive need to sell Morata in that situation.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the player was clamouring to leave or...
He wanted to play more, definitely.
Of course, but I feel like he would have played more for Madrid this season anyway.
I'm not quite so sure. Obviously, with Benzema's injury, it's given Christian Bale, the actor, it's given Bale a chance to come back in the side and demonstrate that he isn't broken.
Yeah.
I think he's contributed to the most goals of any Real Madrid player at the start of this season with 3 goals and 3 assists. So, I mean, if Bale's on the bench in Benzema's absence, then chances are Morata probably still would have been.
What about you, Pato?
I think it's a mistake. I don't know how serious a mistake it is. I think it is silly though, because at some point they're going to need to transition out of the Benzema, Bale, Ronaldo era of that attack. They've got Asensio, they've got Isco, that's good, but they are going to need a world-class centre-forward at some point. When you've already got one at your club, that's better than gambling that in 2 or 3 years' time there'll both be one available and you'll be able to get him. Now, Real Madrid have a lot of pulling power, but they don't have more money than the Premier League clubs. And do you assume that Timo Werner's going to get there, or there's a current 19-year-old who's going to be that guy? Isn't it easier just to keep the 24-year-old you have and use him? I think that it probably is. If I were them, I'd have thought about selling Benzema instead.
Yeah, I almost definitely can guarantee that Real Madrid will have to spend more than the 57 million they sold Morata for to sign his replacement in 2 years, which just seems odd to me. Why not shift Benzema on now when he is ageing and use Morata, use Bale, like you said, he started the season so well, and Ronaldo to then push through. I just don't understand why he kept Benzema and sold Morata.
Was he gambling that he'd get Mbappe? Like, is that what? Do you think?
Surely not. Surely he wasn't gambling at that stage with such a key player in Morata.
Well, we all thought it was going to happen, didn't we? Like, the PSG Mbappe thing came kind of out of left field at the last minute.
Ooh, I don't know. What do you think, Hamster? Gamble or not?
I mean, you got to sort of respect the player's wishes. If you can't promise him the minutes, then yes, you got to give him the right to move on. I think 75 million was a fair price for the player, and obviously they've got a lot of faith in the fact that Karim Benzema's still got a few years left in him, having given him a new contract recently. So, I think it was kind of good for club and player at that point in time. But if he goes on to score 25, 30 Premier League goals, then it's going to look like he's going to look very silly. But we don't know the sort of ins and outs at the club, do we? Might not have been Zidane. Perez might have said, listen, we need to balance the books, financial fair play. We might spend big next season. This 75 million is really going to aid that.
Good point. Right, let's get the next question.
This one comes from Gabrielle, and she asks, why do you think Manchester United don't have a women's team? They're the only side in the Premier League without one.
I said this today in the office tonight.
It's an odd choice by Manchester United.
Disgrace.
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure why we don't. I imagine the reason is some sort of commercial nonsense behind the scenes where it's just not viable. I don't really know. We definitely should have a women's team. I think we're the only Premier League team without a women's team. But United are probably the least progressive of any Premier League team. We're still the only Premier League team without a YouTube channel. We're the last Premier League team to get Twitter. One of the last Premier League teams to get Facebook. It just seems to take forever to get anything signed off at Man United.
Well, I imagine that's because you've got so many commercial partners and there'll be so many people to please, there'll be so much crossover.
Yeah.
That they just say, listen, we generate so much commercial cash that we don't want to burn any sort of fingers on social
Probably,
media.
it's
with
got
any
to be
faux
something like
pas
that.
on social media.
But I don't know.
Maybe.
Maybe there's a commercial reason that they're trying to find a sponsor or something. I literally don't have a clue why we don't have one, but we definitely should. Probably the best answer we're going to get.
We have another Man United related question, and it comes from Adam Jones, and he asks, do you think rumours about Ozil are true about wanting to join United? If so, where do you see him playing for them?
Pato, you're an Arsenal fan. Ozil to United.
I mean, Mourinho's always been a fan of him. Mourinho said when he joined Arsenal are getting the best number 10 in the world.
Did he play under Mourinho? He did play under Mourinho.
He played a lot under Mourinho.
Yeah.
And he won.
His whole career was under Mourinho.
What, at Real Madrid?
Yes.
Yeah, and he won the league. He won the league with them, but because he joined after the World Cup in 2010. But look, I think I wouldn't be surprised if he wanted to join them. I think he'd want to join any top club that's going to pay him a high wage. I think they are a top club. I think they have a space at number 10 because they don't really have anyone who's a specialist in that position. Certainly not anyone as good as Ozil there. So I think that he'd work quite well. On the other hand, I think that they'll want to devote that wage money to somebody else, a Griezmann or someone. So
we spent too much time together. That was pretty much what I was about to say. Yeah. Just about to say.
I think it would fit. I think he'd fit. I think he'd do well at United. I don't think that United will go for him unless they miss other targets.
You're so well stocked for forward options. I can't see you kind of shelling out 230, 240 grand a week or whatever it takes to play.
I actually horribly can because he's going to cost nothing in terms of transfer.
So you're playing Griezmann or Lukaku in that lone number 9 role.
Let's say Griezmann.
If you're playing 4-2-3-1.
I agree with Pato. If you get Ozil, you don't get Griezmann.
Then you're playing.
I don't think you get both.
Yeah, then you're playing Mkhitaryan, then you're playing Martial.
I think Ozil would come in and
Mata.
replace Mata. Ozil would replace Mata if he was to sign Ozil. So you'd play a midfield three of Pogba, Matic and Ozil. Then you'd have Mkhitaryan, Rashford or Martial, and then Lukaku up top would be the team. And then Mata would be slowly phased out. He is ageing now, Juan Mata, but he's been such a vital component to our team this season that I would be surprised if he was sold. And likely, I also don't think that Ozil will stay in England. I've just got a feeling he's going to go abroad. I don't know why.
I mean, I know Ozil actually covers a lot more ground than people think he does, and the fact that he's lazy has become lazy journalism. But I was watching Juan Mata in that game against Southampton, and his defensive contribution was incredible.
Yeah, him and Rashford as well. Rashford's all the time is better. That's why he's preferred over Martial most of the time.
I'm not sure does Mesut Ozil do the same job, but then if he's deployed in that wide position, but I'm not sure. You know, 2 or 3 years ago, you wouldn't have said that Juan Mata would have done that job. You know, players are capable of evolution at any point in their career, but
the question is where we'd like to see him go. Like, I mean, I don't know. I think there are a lot of teams that would be really fun to see him at. I'd like to see him at Dortmund, adding a bit of experience to that kind of interesting attack. I'd love to see him somewhere like Napoli, like with just runners around him. You know, Mertens, Insigne, Callejon, all those guys around him. Like, I think it would be really fun to just see him somewhere.
Do you think Barca could take the punt with him? In that number 10 role,
they definitely
play a 4-2-3-1
They definitely could. I mean, he's going to command a lot in wages, and that would be a little bit of an issue for them.
Fee,
but he fit nicely at Barcelona, I think.
Valverde's kind of played 4-4-2 or 4-3-3 at the start of this season, hasn't he?
Oh, really?
So he played 4-2-3-1 at one point.
Maybe it's like 4-4-1. But I mean, if there's a World Cup winner going on a free, and one with the ability that Mesut Ozil has, then you can't dismiss Bayern Munich from the conversation.
Yeah, although I'm not sure. Spurs, could you imagine? I think he'll go wherever offers the most money, basically.
Yeah.
What's going to happen with Ozil. Right, next question.
This one comes from the True Reds. What would Liverpool have to do to persuade Coutinho to stay at Anfield, or is he nailed on to join Barcelona next summer?
Nailed on 100% joining Barcelona next summer. I think he's even come out and said recently, over the last week, that he still wants to join Barcelona.
I don't know, the FSG have shown some big cojones this in the off-season and actually look like they're deploying some sort of long-term plan. I think it would have been easy for them to accept £120 million for Coutinho, but as we've witnessed, as he's been put back in the team, Liverpool would struggle at times without him, especially with they're nowhere near as potent with Daniel Sturridge in that front three joining Firmino.
100%.
And obviously with Mane's suspension as well, you kind of see how reliant they are on his kind of athleticism and his intelligence and his movement and his elusiveness. But I think it's going to take a couple of big signings to convince him to stay. And maybe, who knows, if they go deep in the Champions League and if they challenge for the league, which isn't looking, completely viable right now, then maybe he'll stay. But it's that long-term ambition. It's kind of that Ronaldo to Real Madrid kind of. It's got that feel to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think, Pato? You think he's going to stay?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't really care. Like, I think, I think that if he wants to leave, he probably will leave. But like, I don't know, man. It depends. If Valverde's still there in a year, it depends on the year Barcelona have had. They might have settled on a particular system, and Coutinho might not fit in. There might be new targets emerging who they want instead. Depends.
Right, next question.
Dybala.
This one is from Donna Randall, and he asks, why is Thomas Tuchel not back in management, and what would be the ideal club for him to join in European football?
Does anybody know why he's not back in management?
I don't think he's had an offer from a club he wants to go to. Like Bayer Leverkusen made a player, but I don't think they're good enough for him.
Southampton as well.
Yeah, Southampton too.
Apparently West Ham have put out the feelers.
I think that he knows he can sit around and wait. He knows he can sit around until like a manager flames out of a big club or a big club decides they want to change. I mean, I know I say it again and again and again, but the obvious club for him to go to is Arsenal. Like they need a guy who can, because they can't compete financially with the bigger boys. They have a decent amount of money, but not the same as like Man City, Man United. They need a guy who adds value. They need a guy who can teach them to press. They need a guy who can be tactically versatile, and Tuchel is that guy. He also brings through young talent, and that's something that's really important to Arsenal's identity. If not them, then someone like maybe Roma, maybe Atletico Madrid even after Simeone. That'd be fun.
They're two very different teams, aren't they? Roma, you kind of imagine that his kind of skill set and his philosophy suits them pretty well.
Yeah.
Whereas Atletico, what a gear shift that would be.
Yeah, but you look
from
at
that deep block to that high pressing system.
Yeah, but you do look at some of the guys who've been important to that system and now sort of aging out. Like Godin, Gabi, Juan Fran, Felipe Luis. A lot of those guys are quite old now.
I was watching him play against Bilbao, and Gabi was actually on the bench. It's the first time I've actually seen him bench because he was so pivotal. He's been pivotal for Lucho throughout his whole regime there, hasn't he? But they're extremely impressive. They've had this sort of like they've got a very potent counter-attacking element, haven't they? I mean, they've always had it, but they've kind of finessed it. It looks like again this season. Like Carrasco is a great option to have coming off the bench, and obviously Griezmann does what he does. But yeah, I reckon Pat is right. Roma or Atleti would be scenes.
I think maybe PSG. I'm not too sure how long Unai Emery is going to last at that team. He's got to guarantee a long way in the Champions League.
There's a rumour that he'll be sacked if they don't get the semis.
Yeah, well, at least the semis. I think he's aiming for probably. I reckon secretly one of his ambitions is Champions League final this year minimum. With the amount of outlay he's put in this summer into the players and the level of players he's put in this summer, I think maybe PSG might be a nice fit. Maybe even Monaco. If Monaco go really, really backwards under Jardim and it all goes a bit Pete Tong there, he might be a nice little fit for a team like Monaco.
I could see more so at Monaco than PSG, and that's not because. But like based on playing style rather than viability. I agree with what you say. Like PSG are likely to turn over their management at any given point, aren't they? But yeah, is he a bit of a control freak? Because he fell out with Watzke, didn't he, at Dortmund? He wouldn't let some of the hierarchy on the training ground, and I think I don't know if he'd get that element of control at PSG.
Yeah, right. Next question then, in social corners and
This one is from Jonah, and he asks, Napoli are playing brilliant football at the moment. Why has nobody made huge moves to pick up Insigne, Mertens or even Sarri?
Oh, you love Napoli, don't you, Hamster?
Yeah, I just think football is just unreal. These sort of... They can play at a false tempo, luring people in before they spring a quick counter-attack. Jorginho is one of the best midfielders in Europe, I think, at breaking the lines with 15, 20-yard passes. Obviously, the front three is interchangeable. Insigne is always coming in off the left. Mertens is just lurking around all the time.
Yeah.
Callahan sort of does the hard yards, doesn't he? Often pulls people into space to give the sort of more prolific two a free run at goal. They've just got...
But why has nobody signed the likes of Mertens? Is it because his age?
People have gone after their play. Mertens is a little bit different, isn't he? Because he's come to the fore so late. But people have tried to sign their players. Chelsea tried to sign Koulibaly for 50 like 50 odd million pounds,
True.
didn't they? I think.
I'm sure somebody made a move for Mertens as well, although it fell through.
I mean, Insigne just signed a new long-term contract, which is why people probably aren't going to go in for him. And the thing with Napoli is, culturally, I can't remember where I read this. It might have been in Maradona's book, but they're very sort of insular, and it's very this kind of north versus south like divide, and they're kind of maybe they're just treated like gods down there or something. But yeah, you don't. I can't remember the last time there was a mass exodus from Napoli. Obviously, Cavani went for massive bucks, didn't they? But
yeah, and
Hamšík's been there for ages.
Yeah, for ages. There were so many clubs interested in Hamšík, and he just never moved.
I think that the issue with Napoli is like Sarri will leave at some point, but there's actually a really small number of teams in the world who are going to be attractive to a guy who's at Napoli. Like Napoli treat their own like gods. Like they're treated so well. The stadium's incredible. Like the fans are great, and so from Sarri's point of view, like he's building something exciting there. I think that if one of the big Premier League clubs were to lose a manager and say we want an attacking guy, like for instance, say there was a bit of dominoes and like Klopp ended up leaving Liverpool or something, then you could see Sarri. Maybe Sarri would fit an attacking team, you know, but there aren't actually that many attacking teams out of the big sides.
He's actually from Napoli as well.
Oh, really?
He joined them. He was at Empoli before, I believe, and I think he's from Napoli or somewhere near there, so he's got that loyalty.
So probably not going anywhere then. Jalab, next question.
Reese Haskell has it, and he asked if you can make a hybrid of 3 players, brain, body, and feet, who would it be and why?
Wow, what a question to think of. An answer to think of on the spot.
Brain. Who's got the
Breast?
best breasts in football? The best
Xavi.
brain in football.
Xavi.
No, Iniesta.
No one has ever read the game, I think, as well as Xavi or Busquets, maybe.
Yeah, Xavi.
Or Guardiola.
Ooh.
That's not a bad shout.
Yeah, Guardiola's brain.
Cruyff even.
Yeah.
I mean, feet, we're all agreeing, right?
Messi. And then body, Ronaldo.
Yeah.
I think Ronaldo is the peak athlete. I think if you actually if you could make out of robotics an athlete, you'd potentially make around Cristiano Ronaldo.
Say athlete again.
Athlete.
Yeah,
No,
you
you
did
changed
it
it this time,
correctly.
yeah.
Athlete.
Yeah.
Stuck in a V in there. Yeah, Messi, Ronaldo, and what? Xavi. I think.
Yeah, something like
Enough
that.
said.
Something like
Yeah,
that.
if you've got any 2 of those, then you're going to be like an all-time great, and Messi has like the brain and the feet, and that'll do.
Yeah.
Or like R9. Like in his youth, he was just like so explosive, wasn't he? But like muscular.
What about like Matthew
lean as well.
McConaughey's body? How about that? He's just he's really
You reckon
muscular
if you
as well.
stuck Messi's feet on Matthew McConaughey's body, he'd score goals? Or do you think he'd just be knocked around by the wind?
I reckon he'd dance like a god. I reckon he'd be incredible on his
Yeah,
feet.
not in that. Not,
McConaughey's hair.
not
Check
Dallas
out,
Cowboys.
check out Magic Mike on
not
streaming.
Dallas Cowboys McConaughey, because he'd just get knocked off the ball. Right, Zach.
Okay, this one comes from
Even
Jimmy12.
Zach doesn't know what we're talking about.
Who is the underdog to win Stat Wars the Champions?
Oh yes.
And if you had to put your money on someone, who would it be?
Well, let's keep today's result
under
tight.
wraps.
Yeah.
Under wraps.
Let's be tight-lipped about that. Obviously, I think by virtue of playing it the most, me and Van Straat are the favourites.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
underdogs
I'd
he
say
wants.
so.
Yeah,
Well, we
I'm
know
building,
who
I'm
he
building to the underdog.
He's whistling it down, idiot.
Actually-
Big head over
I
here.
think from the offset, I think George has the potential, has had, who knows, the potential to do very well. Joe can turn it on, can also be disastrous.
Yeah,
Can't you, mate?
I'm a little bit hot and cold. I actually...
Nearly went out against Howson.
Yeah, I agree. Obviously, you two are favourites. So what about the guests? I think
McCullough.
might throw up a surprise.
I think Lawrence McKenna's going to win it, but it'd be classic, wouldn't it? Comes back as worst loser, just about scrapes through against John Bab, goes on to win it.
Nah, it's
Scenes.
not happening. I'm going to go McCullough as my outsider today.
I'm going to go George.
The winner of Joe and George's tie is the.
Oh,
That was the diplomatic answer. Well done.
yeah.
You're welcome.
Right, back to you, Zach.
Okay, this one comes from Mono Boy, and he asked, has Mbappe made a poor choice joining PSG? It doesn't seem like the right fit for a player still developing.
What?
Ooh.
Have you not seen the way he started the season?
Started the season well, but I might have a point. Is it the right
yeah?
fit for a player still developing at 18?
Well, if he's going to get the minutes,
Playing, inflate his head a bit too much.
playing with Neymar and Cavani is only going to benefit him.
True.
Take
Good
their
point.
take the egos out of it.
Yeah.
Take the personal stuff out of it. Playing with players of that calibre is only going to improve him. I don't think I have any more to add.
Yeah,
to be honest.
the ego issue was inevitably going to be the case when people were bidding 150 mil for you. It doesn't matter if he joined PSG or not. Like, do I think it was the best idea long term? I think he'd have been more interesting at, say, Barcelona, but how bad's it going to be? Yeah, he's playing with some of the best players in the world.
He's going to score a hatful of goals and win numerous league titles.
I mean, what I will say is it's going to be hard to prize him away from PSG now.
Yes.
So as neutrals, I think we'd have liked to have seen him play in Spain or in England. I mean, PSG won't need to sell at any point.
Yeah, he's going to have to run his contract down, really, isn't he? The only way he's going to leave is by running his contract down, unless the market all goes funny, and then somebody might just pay $1 billion for him at some stage. You never know. About 10 years time. Right, next question.
This one is from Jman74, and he asks, settle the Sunday vibes debate. Order the Barcelona midfield 3 of Xavi, Iniesta, and Busquets from best to worst.
Oh. Well,
that's easy. Third is Iniesta.
That's ridiculous, Van Straten. That is absolutely ridiculous.
I'm sorry. Look, if you think Iniesta being better than Modric, that's completely fair. Iniesta being better than Xavi, I'm sorry, but like, genuinely only a stupid person could think that. That is nuts. That is nuts. Iniesta's not an all-time great. Xavi is. That's the difference.
I would go Iniesta, Xavi, Busquets.
Oh my god! God! You're a stupid person.
You can only evaluate. You can't evaluate them against one another, can you? Per se, because they played very different roles. And if you're asking how good were they at their role,
stop giving the politicians answer. Where would you go?
Then Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. But Busquets is one of the best pivots of all time.
So you go Xavi above Iniesta?
Maybe the best 6 of all time. Iniesta, best 8. Yeah, but there's other.
Is he an 8?
There's other very talented. Well, you can have like German 8s, Spanish 8s going on.
Yeah, I mean,
in terms of attacking midfielders, Iniesta for me is Xavi, Iniesta, Busquets. Move on before
Iniesta, Xavi.
No. See, I use the same thing as him, but the thing is, like, if you rate them like relative to people in their position, you can think of attacking mids better than Iniesta. You know, like Maradona was better, Platini was better, Zidane was better. But if you try and think of defensive midfielders better than Busquets, people might say Makelele, people might say Guardiola, Redondo, Souness, but I think Busquets is better than all of those.
James Souness, didn't think he'd come up in this
conversation. Neither did I.
It is amazing.
I'll tell you what, let's put it out to Twitter. Zach, put a poll on Twitter and we'll come back to the end of the thing.
Do it now, multitask.
1, 2, 3. Do it after you've asked this question.
Okay, this one comes from Atleti Reds. He asked, was £57 million a fair price for Diego Costa, or have they overpaid?
I don't think they've overpaid. He's a striker. Yeah, I'd say it's pretty much fair for all parties. Fair. I think they've got a striker who's going to get them 20 plus goals a season for a middle price in today's market. Chelsea needed to get rid of him. They'll be happy with £57 million for a player who didn't want to be there, wasn't going to play, and was an issue for Conte. I think it's fair for every single party.
I mean, it's just a shame they didn't sell him sooner, because now we won't see Costa until January. I don't know why they couldn't have arrested this situation quicker.
Is he available in January? Can he start playing from January, or is it from next summer?
Yeah, just the next time they can resubmit their squad.
Yeah.
This is coming from a boy who's played about 3,000 seasons of Football Manager.
Yeah, true. Yeah. But I just wasn't sure when their transfer ban was up.
He used to Photoshop his head onto pictures of managers for Football Manager. He got his girlfriend to take the pictures. True fact.
Sad little man.
Nerd.
Next question.
Yeah, next question.
Okay, Lily White's lad asks, will Harry Kane have to leave Tottenham to take his game to the next level, or should he stay like Alan Shearer?
Alan Shearer at Tottenham. I'd love to see him go and just try his hand at a different league. It's always nice to see English players sort of take that risk, isn't it? Imagine him as the 9 at a Madrid, at a Barcelona, at a Bayern Munich. That'd be great. Obviously has that loyalty to Tottenham, doesn't he? He scored the most goals in 2017. He was level with Ronaldo before that hat-trick against Nicosia in the Champions League. And now, so in terms of numbers, he is stacking up against some great players at the minute. But
I think he's got like 6 or 7 hat-tricks in 2017.
I think he's got 9.
Jesus.
Or 7. 7 or 9.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It's just, is he bothered about people's perception of him as current? He's still young. He's playing at a club where he's loved and that he loves. So for the time being, Pat, another couple of years at Spurs at least.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what the next level is. Like, is it better if he goes to a team that's more dominant in their league and therefore scores more? Like, in terms of what he's doing at Spurs, it's hard to see how he could take it to the next level.
I don't understand.
I mean, he'd be a great Benzema replacement, but Jesus Christ, how much are you going to cost?
Oh, how much do you think he would cost? I reckon.
Oh, stop it!
Don't
make that noise. That's the noise you make when you're talking about clicks.
he would potentially be a world record-breaking transfer. I think Harry Kane, if he was to go to Madrid.
Jesus. This is what I mean. This is why I talk about perception. I'm not sure if people perceive him as world class on the continent, because they don't watch him do what they don't see what we see week in, week out. So if he does have a prolific season in Europe, maybe people will start to talk about him in the same breath as
hopefully
as a Luis Suarez.
Because for me he's definitely the best striker in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean Lewandowski is if he doesn't want to be at Bayern Munich, then how tasty a transfer would that?
Harry Kane, I just can't see Harry Kane.
I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get that lisp around those harsh S's and that accent.
That's just uncalled for, isn't
I
it?
don't really have harsh
Right,
S's.
social corner. Next question.
This one comes from Bayern captain, and he asks, what do you make of Julian Nagelsmann's coming out publicly to say he wants the Bayern Munich job in the future?
Oh, was he right to do that?
Go on, mate.
It doesn't matter in a way. Like Hoffenheim and Bayern aren't direct rivals, really. And Nagelsmann, he's a very young manager. He's got tons of time, so it's not a direct insult to Ancelotti either. Like he could take that job in 25 years. Like so, it doesn't necessarily relate to Ancelotti. Hoffenheim know he is going to want to leave for a bigger job, and it's natural that he'll want the biggest job in his homeland. I'm not sure that you necessarily need to come right out and say it, given that everybody already assumes it. But I don't think it's a problem that he did.
Yeah, I mean, I think Bayern will want to see him put up this sort of form across 2 or 3 years as well as Hoffenheim. I mean, he has transformed the club completely from, I think they were straggling, weren't they, at 16th place when he came in January or February 2016, and he led them to the Champions League the next season. A great achievement. They've been playing they've got a very solid foundation. They play a decent brand of football, don't they?
Yeah.
But I think if you're the hierarchy at Bayern Munich, you want to see him knocking on the door of that top 4 for 2 or 3 years at least before you think about replacing a coach like Ancelotti.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how long Ancelotti's got left though. I don't know whether he actually wants to be there for that much longer. I think maybe you've got 1-2 seasons max. I don't think he'll be there in like 3 years, Ancelotti. And if it's not Nagelsmann, then I think it will be Nagelsmann. I don't see Thomas Tuchel taking that job. I don't know why. It just doesn't seem the right fit.
He's Bavarian, Tuchel.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, God almighty. Thomas Tuchel taking over after Ancelotti at the end of the season is a scary thought.
I think in terms of the football that Bayern are playing now under Ancelotti, Nagelsmann's a better fit to replicate that sort of style. As I say, we were talking about Tuchel before, that'd be a different gear, but who knows? It'd be exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, Zach, social corner.
Okay, this one is a guest ball to Pato. It comes from AFC Guns. Why is Arsene Wenger not playing Ozil, Sanchez and Lacazette as a front three? It seems odd to buy Laka and not play them all up together.
Oh, injuries? They've been injured.
Ozil was a little bit injured, which is why he didn't start the other day. Yeah, I mean, you're completely right. Like, I don't know why he's not doing it. It's fucking stupid. Especially given that, like, if you're not going to take the money for Sanchez and Ozil, then you're saying we're going to maximise this last year of them. Like, we're like having them for this final year is worth more than a combined 100 million potentially,
yeah.
And now you're not playing them. So if I were Arsene, I mean, if they're both going to leave at the end of the year, you have pretty much no reason not to run them into the ground. You can play them every minute of every game as much as you want because you don't need to give a shit about what state they're in next year. So if I were Wenger, I would play Mesut Ozil until his legs came off.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. I don't understand Wenger's thought process at all.
But the attack's been pretty good. The attack's been pretty good so far this season.
Maybe you'll see
the defence hasn't, but
once they've started to gel, they'll just start playing all three together. I think towards Christmas that will definitely be the starting front three. If it's not the starting front three, I think Wenger has fully got dementia. Next question.
Okay, it's a bit of a different one, and it comes from AA Jokes, and he asks, will the likes of Hashtag United ever join a major league? And what do you think of the emergence of creator-led teams on YouTube? A very different kind of question there.
I don't think Hashtag will join a major league because they would have to work their way up the pyramid in the exact same fashion that any other team would.
Well, they very clearly chose not to do that.
Yeah.
At their inception, and that's why they play in these. They play against like staff teams, don't they? I think he's got his own divisional structure, hasn't he? Fair play to what they've achieved. You know, the kits are out on FIFA. Obviously toured America, didn't they?
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of demystifies the whole the whole process of like running a football club, and it's enjoyable to watch, evidently, for a lot of young fans. And he must be earning a fair whack off those kit sales as well, because I had a look on the shop today and they're £49. Oh, you rugger. Who knows, maybe we should do something like that.
Yeah, maybe we'll
Wink,
see that
wink.
one day. But I think maybe the route for that sort of thing is to go to America. I think that, I don't want to say it could be like off the back, you'd have to market the fuck out of it and the PR would be a nightmare, but if you could make that into an MLS franchise, or you could adapt the current MLS franchise to become #United, I think you'd have a massive money
But then he surrenders control to the league structure.
Yeah, I mean, it would be a massive give and take, but the payoff would be incredible if you could pull it off. Maybe you would do, I don't know how it would work, but that's the only route to major football, is through franchising in America, because you're never going to climb the
Or Canada.
Yeah, you're never ever going to climb the league structure in England. It's just not going to happen.
Well, maybe you see the formation of a YouTube league that runs a little bit more like traditional football, but obviously then people retain their image rights.
Yeah.
You know, editorial control. Who knows? You're in very boring territory now, so let's move on.
Yes.
Okay, this one comes from Mumbai Man. He asks, "What do you think of England's under-17 squad that is going to the first ever World Cup held in India?"
Put it on my Twitter if you
Oh,
want to.
let's have a look. Let's get the squad up. England's under-17 squad named on the FA's website. This could take a while to load.
First and foremost, this is the first time they've staged a major football tournament in the country. So good luck to all the Indian fans out there who might, be able to go and watch a game. Obviously, a lot of high-quality footballers taking part, and I heard a great quote in this documentary I watched that cricket is the game of the fathers out there, and now football is the game of the sons. So
Interesting one.
football, in terms of football, I think India's a bit of a sleeping giant, and hopefully this, will pave the way to waking it up.
So let's have a look at this squad. I'll read it out. If there's any names you recognise, mention them, because I don't know many of them. Curtis Anderson, nothing. Ryan Brewster, Joseph Bursic. We'll go down here with Phil Foden, Man City. Phil Foden
You've watched him a
pre-season
couple of
looked
times, haven't you?
really good.
He's an interesting
pre-season.
midfielder. He's like a mini Nasri. He's quite fun to watch, yeah.
Yeah, there's also Angel Gomez in there from Manchester United. I think he just scored today as well against CSKA Moscow. Obviously got his first Premier League appearance at the back end of last season.
Yeah.
Still 16 odd
I
years
don't
old.
know another player until Jadon Sancho.
Jadon Sancho, George McEachran. I wonder if that's Josh McEachran's younger brother.
Probably.
If it is, good luck to him. Jadon Sancho as well, yeah. Obviously, he's the guy who's gone to Borussia Dortmund and taken the number 7 shirt. I don't think he's played a game yet, has he? For Dortmund.
No, I don't think so. But
I
he's
think
only
he might have
17.
come on.
Is Sessegnon... Oh, that's Ryan Sessegnon, the young lad at Fulham, isn't it?
Yeah, you're thinking of Sessegnon at maybe ex-West Brom?
No, I'm thinking of the young lad Tottenham tried to sign.
Yeah, Ryan Sessegnon, the left back at
Ryan
Fulham.
Sessegnon, the youngster.
Yeah, he's a bit too
But I
old for
think
this
that's
now,
Stevens.
isn't he?
Stephen,
Yeah, right. Anyway, so we don't have any opinions on the 17 squad because we don't watch enough youth team football.
But good luck.
Yeah, good luck India.
I don't care.
Social corner.
I hope they lose.
Okay, this one comes from Josh Austin, and he asks, "What do you wait for Need to do to get FFP working effectively? It's clearly not effective enough. What sanctions would you put on it?"
Maybe just have some balls, lay down the law, from, say, listen, get your houses together, I'm from 2019, we're doing this. It's very ad hoc, there's a lot of grey areas at the minute, isn't there? Clubs like Manchester City are able to sign massive deals to, the naming rights of their stadium with a company that comes under the umbrella, of their holding company. It's all there's obviously a quagmire of shit, isn't that? And we're probably not best placed to comment on it, but it is making the footballing landscape a little bit ridiculous. Champions League, I was watching PSG versus Celtic. I thought this is a privilege to watch this forward line played together, but it kind of makes a mockery of the competition, or other teams who have fought so hard to get there. It kind of makes a mockery of their competing in it.
But they weren't battered any more than they were when they played like Barcelona last year. I mean, the problem with FFP is, any version of FFP is, it will eventually protect the rich clubs, and it will prevent other clubs from being taken over and then invested heavily in. So for instance, it would stop somebody taking over Celtic and investing really heavily and trying to turn them into potential European champions again. So I would just ditch it altogether at this point. I don't think that UEFA are capable of regulating the influx of money into football to the extent that they need to, in order to make sure it's a level playing field. So in that case, they should just get rid of the image of doing anything and give up entirely.
Yeah, give up entirely. I think there's massive issues, especially after that Neymar bought his own contract out. I think that's like the number one issue that needs to be sorted. If players are going to start doing that, then they may as well just give up straight off the bat.
No, but that's just how it works in Spain. Like a buyout clause, technically the player has to pay it.
But is it not that it didn't come out of PSG's coffers because the Qataris gave it to him as a World Cup ambassador?
Oh, I don't know exactly like where the
Yeah,
provenance
it's
of the money
some
was.
talking
This is the
about
nonsense
this,
that you just can't
it
sort
can
out.
get very shady. There's definitely an underbelly of, well, a lot of corruption, which we've seen over the last few years with FIFA. But it's quite a hard question to address, isn't it? So maybe let's move on.
Yeah.
Tom O'Reilly has the next one, and he asks, the Premier League seems to have a serious lack of top quality central defenders. Why is that?
Does it?
That's what he says.
Well, to be fair, world class, I'd say, other than Alderweireld, I'm struggling to think
I
of.
mean, not many teams.
Maybe Azpilicueta.
Not many teams conceded less goals than Chelsea last season.
I think Man United and Spurs did, didn't they? But that was it.
Manchester United, Spurs.
Yeah, I
Well,
believe they did.
But I think if you actually look at, if you were
I
to
think Spurs did.
how many Premier League defenders would get in that Real Madrid back to, or Bayern back to?
who are the great centre backs? Let's establish who the great centre backs are in Europe then at the moment.
Ramos, PK.
Ramos still very defensively suspect. Kind of
Varane.
makes up for it with his athleticism, but still. But
Boateng, Hummels, Bonucci, Chiellini.
Barzagli.
Then I would put in Alderweireld.
Yeah, I think Alderweireld is definitely the Premier League's best.
especially with his
Thiago
passing
Silva's
ability.
probably
Passing
still there.
ability. I definitely think some of the teams, Man United, for instance, central defenders, very suspect.
Azpilicueta is definitely in there for me. Azpilicueta is
Yeah.
a formidable defender. He can be deployed in the middle and as a right back or left back, can't he?
Yeah, I agree. But I think like, maybe Manchester City, I think they're still very centrally defensive suspect without Vincent Kompany. I think Man United, the exact same. Liverpool, obviously extremely suspect. I think Arsenal, if you take out Koscielny out of that back two, I think are very weak. So there is a bit of a problem, but I actually don't think there are that many great centre-backs in the world at the moment to say we're massively behind everyone else.
Especially the way that sort of the evolution that's happened with fullbacks. It makes your defensive unit a lot less tight, doesn't it? You see Leicester still deploy a very traditional kind of 4-4-2 system where Christian Fuchs and Danny Simpson tuck in really close to their centre-backs, and that was a really useful mechanism in the 15-16 season when they won the league. But now, as you intimated that earlier, you've got Victor Moses playing a right wing back and whoever else Chelsea deploy a left back, and you wouldn't necessarily use them in a traditional defensive kind of way. So I think you're more liable to concede, but that's why we've seen the sort of birth of players like, the rebirth, football cyclical, isn't it? Like Benjamin Mendy and why he's so important to Manchester City. Kyle Walker and why he's worth £50 million.
Yeah, loads of people on the comments are saying David Luiz.
I mean, David Luiz
as well.
when he plays with the right players, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. A few people are saying David Luiz. There's a couple saying Koscielny.
I think there's a lazy narrative that there are no good centre backs anymore. I think it's something that like a lot of guys who played 15 years ago like to peddle because the defenders like to say that they were great and the strikers like to say that they played against the hardest defenders. I don't think it's really true. I think that basically attacks have got really, really good now and centre backs have to do more than they ever did. Like in the day, Sol Campbell didn't have to play the kind of passes that David Luiz and Toby Alderweireld and PK do. So a lot more is expected of centre backs, and to be honest, we've just named I think quite a lot of decent centre backs. So I mean,
let's move on. But it's pretty harsh, I think, that comment.
Okay, we have an update on our poll that we put out earlier. Xavi is rated number 1, Iniesta number 2, and then Busquets number 3.
Incorrect.
There's only 6% of votes as well.
6% Busquets got. That's harsh.
That's not very clever.
Well, I think he's probably one of the greatest defensive midfielders of all time.
I think he's the best.
I think he's looked a bit jaded the last couple of seasons. Needs a rest, a couple of lessons.
Got no help.
Yeah, right, next
Okay, the question comes from Scotty P, and he asks, can Tottenham maintain their current level with the way their current wage structure works?
No, they have to sort their wage structure out. It's got to be improved.
Yeah.
It's got to be increased. It doesn't have to be improved because it is actually excellently run, but it's just the ceiling's just going to have to go up from 100k, what is it now, 150 maybe they've got now, to 200. I think it's just got to be improved, such as the nature of the modern game. You can't continue to play Harry Kane and pay Dele Alli and Harry Kane 100k a week. When
I don't even think Dele Alli's on 100.
Yeah, you just have to sort that out, otherwise they will leave. And I'm sure Daniel Levy will. He's one of the smartest businessmen in the entire league.
Yeah, agreed.
Cool. Our next one comes from Citizens Are Us, and he asks, should Pep forget about Alexis Sanchez because his current side is so dangerous in attack? It feels like he doesn't need him.
It's a sort of interesting question. I mean, his pedigree is sort of nailed on, isn't it? We know it was a little. Don't know what happened over there. But when you've got players like Bernardo Silva who aren't playing, what would they think if you brought someone like Alexis Sanchez to the club? What would a 21-year-old, 22-year-old Leroy Sané think, and a 22-year-old Sterling think if they thought this is going to hamper my playing time any further? He already said categorically that Sterling wasn't for sale. Now, if he was willing to let Sterling go, then maybe he could bring Sanchez in. But for me, I think he might just develop that youth. But then again, there's always room for Sanchez at any club, isn't there?
Yeah, I don't know whether he'll want to upset the apple cart. If he's at January and they're flying along in the season, and that front two of Jesus and Aguero is performing really well, Sané's coming off the bench, Sterling's coming off the bench, great effect, Bernardo Silva's coming in and out when he can, I don't think he'll risk bringing him in January. He might just wait till next summer. If you're bringing him in January and then you have to play Sanchez, he's not a bench player. You can't drop him on the bench and then leave him there. I just don't see where he fits in. I think he's next summer, not January, if they're doing well. If they're not, they'll bring him in January.
I wouldn't bother bringing him in at all. Like I think that there are other clubs who could use him more, but there's a difference between buying a guy this summer because you think he's going to put you over, tip you over to get the title. Next year, he'll be 29. I think that giving him, he'll probably require a 4 or 5 year contract as well as really high wages.
Yeah.
I think that's a risk for Man City. I think that other clubs are probably more
Got
likely
to get him next summer. They
other
can't let
clubs are
Man
more
United
likely
get
to
him.
offer him.
Where do you see him ending up at? Potentially Juventus, PSG? Or they've been perpetually...
I think he'll be one of the Manchester clubs. If Man City
he'd be
don't get
great
him, then I
at
think
Juve.
Man United will get him.
Yeah, I'd like to see him at Juventus.
I'd like to see him at Juve.
Yeah.
I think Juve would be good.
They'd be a great fit, but they're not going to pay the wages.
What do they pay Higuain?
The pay Higuain, Higuain's
probably
the
the
best
top
player
earner.
in the
He's
league.
probably-
He is
he's
their
not on
best-
200K,
he is their top
is he?
earner. I think he's, I don't know, because wages are reported
Wages are really
before
low,
tax and
aren't
after
they?
tax, like in Italy. So actually, he's paid quite a bit, but I don't know.
Right, okay, next question anyway.
Cybertech asks, should Ronald Koeman be sacked at Everton, and who is the next person to be sacked?
Yeah, I definitely think he should be sacked. Oh, God.
I'm not sure if he should be sacked. I mean, who is out there that can replace Koeman in January, says a hypothetical,
Well,
that would go to Everton?
the reason I think he should be sacked... the thing is, you don't know whether it was his fault, the business. Whoever's fault the business was this summer should be sacked.
Yes.
If that was Koeman's choice to bring in those players, then his head should roll at the start of this season.
Yeah, but then you need to get... Look, I agree that there needs to be a price paid for like building this squad so badly. That's the issue. The issue isn't Koeman, and Everton will be fine. Like, the issue is that they don't have any pace in that squad. And you're completely right that probably Steve Walsh, who I think is not a very good director of football, but basically you need to keep a guy who at least saw these players and thought, I can build a workable team. Because somebody else who comes in might think, oh Jesus Christ, like what can I do with this? Unless they're going to go and try and get like Marcelino out of Valencia, they need a defensive-minded coach who doesn't need a lot of pace in the wide areas.
Did they bring in Steve Walsh from Leicester as director of football or head scout though?
I don't know, but he's not very good at either.
I'm not sure if he's director of football.
I don't know who...
He's
what role
certainly
is.
got a
He's
key
definitely
role
there,
in
but-
recruitment,
yeah.
and he's not great
But
at it.
they didn't recruit in a very Steve Walsh / Leicester of the last 2 or 3 years kind of esque kind of way, did they?
Well, they chuck shit at a wall and saw what stuck.
Well,
in
I
it
mean,
and
Steve
stuck.
Walsh has built a career essentially out of 2 big hits.
I've said this 100 times, but they've just bought too many players for the same position.
It's a horrible window.
And a lot of people, well, a lot of Everton fans that I've spoken to have argued that the team has looked better without Davy Klaassen and without Wayne Rooney being shoehorned in it at number 10. So I'm backing him to not come good, but be better.
Yes.
Yeah, he might get there eventually. Right, next question.
9-5 asks, is Christian Pulisic going to live up to the hype because he is a big deal over here in the States?
In the States.
Wow.
Hello, what time is it over there?
Yeah, I don't know.
Probably 1 o'clock.
Well, I have to say, I watched Pulisic at Wembley against Tottenham Hotspur, and he is phenomenal. He is absolutely electric. He's got a glorious touch. He's got that nice ability. The ball just seems to stick to him.
Well hung, apparently.
really close control. His close control is really good. And he's already becoming a hub for Dortmund. Nearly every one of their attacks that was successful against Tottenham Hotspur went through Christian Pulisic, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing. You don't make too much pressure on a lad so young. He'll eventually move on, obviously, but I think he's a phenomenal talent. So USA lucky to have him.
Yeah, I think people maybe getting a tiny bit carried away though. Like he is a phenomenal talent, I agree, but he only started 14 games last season, and Borussia Dortmund clearly have a plan for him. And the fact that he didn't start against Real Madrid didn't entirely surprise me. I think they'll use him, not sparingly, but there's definitely going to be rotation in that side, isn't there? I think he had, against that, in that Tottenham game, I think he had the most touches inside the box of any player. I think it was like 11, which just shows you that whilst he's mainly deployed out wide, he does have that he has a good eye for goal, and it's such elusive movement that you can't really teach. So I suppose on that kind of, in that perspective, he is class.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult in a way, like to say, will he live up to the hype? He's already living up to it. Like, I mean, he's already a key part on a big Champions League team. That's something that we haven't really seen of an American footballer very often. Like, so he's the best American footballer I've ever seen, like, certainly. So unless he gets a serious injury, I think he's going to be one of the best players in the world.
That's something. Rapper though.
That's something they've never had.
Clint Dempsey, mate.
Yeah.
Yep.
12:54 apparently, by the way, in the USA. 12:54. So thanks very much to the USA.
Depends where they are. They're like 3
That's
times
East
zones.
Coast, yeah.
We got 5 minutes left as well, so get as many
Moron.
questions as you physically can in the comments now. We're going to go really quick fire for the next 5 minutes. Jalab, you better be on your toes.
Okay,
Jalab.
let's go. Jose Roquez asked, clear up the debate on Twitter. Is Cristiano Ronaldo a genuine striker or is he a winger?
He's a genuine striker.
He's a striker.
He's a striker now. Last night against Borussia Dortmund, he completed 0 dribbles, had 5 shots and touched the ball the most times in the air of any other player, which just shows you that he's not that sort of gallivanting wide man now, is he?
Yeah, definitely an out-and-out winger. Striker, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, next question.
Okay.
Oh my god.
No one's paying us for this.
Professional.
Swear your head off.
Will you guys be buying FIFA? And if so, what do you make of the new game from FIFA Skills?
Right, I won't be buying FIFA.
Zach got a free copy from the FIFA
I
lot,
did.
so he'll be lending me that forcibly.
Pato.
I've got 17. It's the same.
Right, there we go. Next question.
From Kushal, who win the Premier League Player of the Season?
Oh.
After 6 games.
After six
After 6
games, it will be Harry Kane.
Go on, you go next, mate. Because I've got no answer. I'm telling you.
Quickly, we're running out of time.
Oh, Jesus. Aguero.
Ooh.
Who's Tarkovsky?
Yeah, that's a good shout, actually.
There you go, Burnley. Next question.
Who do you think will make it to the Champions League final?
Oh, Jesus.
Champions League. This is like predictions. We're not Nostradamus.
Nice.
I will go for Real Madrid versus Barcelona.
Oh, right, okay. Final. I thought you just said winners. Should probably pay attention. Yeah, I think Barcelona looked impressive at the start of this season. Hard to look beyond Real Madrid and PSG as well. I'm going to go with a PSG plus one of the Spanish sides.
Yeah, Real Madrid, PSG.
Ooh.
If you could take one player from your rival, who would it be? And that comes from a name I cannot say. It's not English.
All right. Okay. Terrible pronunciation. I would take Kevin De Bruyne.
I wouldn't take anyone from Rangers.
Who counts as Arsenal's rival?
Tottenham.
Young Harold Kane.
There we have it.
Okay, this comes
The
from
Hurricane.
This one's from Comet. Will James Rodriguez finish his career at Bayern Munich?
No.
Yes, definitely not. 100% he will not finish his career at
Zero
Bayern Munich.
chance that happens.
There's about a 60% chance he finishes in Turkey.
That is a rogue shout. Turkey, yeah. I mean, he's one of those players like Chicharito who's just commercially viable, even like back at home in South America, if not in Europe. So yeah, he'll have one last payday, probably in the US, I imagine.
Or like Valencia or something.
Central
you can
America.
imagine Valencia with a 36-year-old James Rodriguez trotting around on broken ankles. That's a very Valencia thing to do.
Like that. Next question.
Arnold for the win 97, and he asks, where would you place Luka Modric on the top 10 Real Madrid players?
On the top 10 Real
Would he
Madrid
make
players?
it, basically?
Ever?
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know about
Or where
ever.
would you
A
place
team
him?
that's won the most European Cups and consistently put out some of the
Yeah, not in
best
the top 10.
sides.
Not in
What
the
a
top
question.
10.
No.
What, pointless questions, that's crap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, the best player ever is Di
Thanks for
Stefano.
contributing, but God,
Crap.
I've got 2 minutes left, bro.
Carl asks, will Donnarumma join Juve after Buffon retires?
No.
Yes.
He's signed the new contract now, hasn't he? Milan don't need to sell, so no for me.
Yes.
They got Wojciech Szczesny. Ooh.
It's good for Roma.
Yeah.
Which player today will become the best manager in the future? From Ardash.
Bloody hell's that? We got 1 minute left, mate.
You guys, you're saying fire then.
Xabi
I'm
Alonso.
firing.
Next, Xabi Alonso.
Arteta was the one. Arteta was the one, then Alonso, and I don't know who it would be after that. Somebody clever. Musa Dembele.
Who should replace Conte at Chelsea? And that comes from Javier CFC.
Jardim.
Tuchel.
Pie.
Thank you.
Right, last question.
Okay, last
I
question.
will take that job.
Should Liverpool sack Klopp?
No.
No.
Yes, I'd love them to. It'd be great.
Yeah, I would love them to, but they shouldn't.
Yeah, it would be so stupid, but they
shit.
definitely should.
That's
Like-
such a Liverpool-esque thing today.
Yeah, right. I believe that was the last question anyway, was it? We're happy to end it on that because that's all the time we've got for today. Make sure you check out our other YouTube video that went live before this, though, I think at 3 p.m. It's Transfer Talk. Well said. It's about Antonio Conte leaving Chelsea. Also on Euro Football Daily today there is a top 10.
Yep.
What's the top 10 title?
Don't know.
Don't know either.
Greatest partnerships.
Greatest strike partnerships. That's true. You've got
What is that?
Cole and York. You've got Henry and Bergkamp. You've got Brazilian Ronaldo and Rivaldo. Very exciting.
And why don't you go and check out our new channel, 90+1
Yes.
Facts. Go on the Football Daily homepage. You will see it on the nav bar on the right. Click it. All good stuff like a warm apple pie.
Yeah, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next week on Fan Hour.
That was effort,
Bye.
wasn't it? Long. Bye.